Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain and welcome back. Now today I wanted to talk about principles, more specifically being a principled person. Now I want to touch on a couple of things first in regards to what I mean by that, and then also move on to 7 kind of principles that I feel are vague enough and open enough to apply to most people's lives as being good things to have in mind. And this does kind of lead on from the video that we did or that I did last week in regards to living by a code, because these principles, they're kind of code-esque in the way that they are, but they're not as specific. And these are very much more kind of principles that stand out as ways to form your behavior to then act on the code that you have chosen for yourself. You know, the code, as we said last week, can be very specific, it can be very focused, or it can be very vague. This is more of the vague end of things, and it's what people tend to mean when they're talking about, well, it's the principle of the thing, you know. And so I consider myself to be quite a principled person, and I will often, from experience, I had a time where I would cut corners. I'd do things in ways that maybe now, looking back on it, not something that I would do, and it was the principle of that I adopted and that became more solid in my thinking of kind of, no, you can't cut corners. Things sometimes need to be done properly. It might suck because I want the result. I don't care about the process. That's just the way I think and the way that I function. But it's a case of, just because you want that result, there still has to be a way to get it done, in which case change your thinking so that it's each little result on the way to the big result, rather than just, process is bollocks, get it out of the way, let me get to the end. But as a result, I was looking for a kind of good definition of what a principled person is. And in fact, one of the best ones, one of the most concise and reasonable ones, actually comes from the guys that run the International Baccalaureate. And so let me read it to you. Excuse me. It says, a principled person is a person who acts with integrity and honesty, with a strong sense of fairness, justice, and respect for the dignity of the individual, groups, and communities. They take responsibility for their own actions and the consequences that accompany them. Now, again, I would say that for the most part, yeah, that sounds about right to me. You know, they act with integrity and honesty, and they have a strong sense of fairness and justice and respect for everybody, and they take responsibility for their own actions and the consequences. That statement is so broad that it can be applied to so many different areas of life. And so the principles that kind of stand out to me is they're kind of just big, kind of grand, vague elements that I want to go over now, because I feel like all of them fit into that statement around being accountable to yourself and to others for what you do, and kind of sticking to the kind of just and honest and integral kind of elements of your personality, rather than giving into not doing those things. Yeah, not sticking to the right way of doing things, whatever the right way has been decided for that situation. And so the first thing, and this one's incredibly important because it's at the core of coaching as well, which is why, again, I liken coaching and doing things to climbing a mountain. And that is that nothing that's ever worth doing is going to be easy. You know, you need to have that strain, you need to have that stress. It's supposed to be hard, because the harder it is, the better things are going to be coming out the other end. You know, you're going to put more into it, you're going to endure more, and you're going to come out better as a person, as well as with a better result out the other end. You know, you shouldn't shy away from things that are hard. You know, you should develop yourself in such a way that you can overcome those things, that you can tackle them, that you can, you know, deal with the rest of the situation that's coming at you. You know, it's if you stop, then you stagnate. You know, and you're going to break down. You know, if you don't keep working on things like your muscles, or if you don't keep testing your mental capacity for various tasks, then those abilities, those things, they atrophy, and you're not going to get anywhere near as much out of them again when you try to use them again. One thing that has been said of me before is that I often look for the ways that seem to give me the most, even if they're not the easiest ways. They may be more thorough, they may be more specific, or they may just line up with what I want more, but I will go and do those things instead of cutting corners, instead of trying to do other stuff. And I'm aware of that, and there are people that take the piss out of me for it. But again, I'm getting more for myself out of life, and I'm trying to push towards a place that is going to be better for me and everyone around me after a certain amount of time of me really working hard. It'll make it worthwhile, and me going, yeah, there's a way to do it, and it's something that needs to be invested in. I need to put all of myself into it in some way, shape, or form, to train myself, to build myself up, to endure those difficulties, so that then when the next time those difficulties hit me, they're not difficulties, they're just things for me to ignore as I shrug past them. It's building up that coping for life in those places that I want to be. And this is where there are a lot of people who, when they talk to me about me being a life coach, they're like, oh, so you tell people how to live their lives. And it's like, no, I'm there to make sure you work hard on your own life in the way that you want to work. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand, because they want to be able to give themselves over to someone else to allow their lives to be more easy, to be more simple, so that they have someone else to blame. And a good coach, who's a properly qualified coach, doesn't give them that. But anyway, the next one is avoiding negativity. And this might sound strange from someone that has covered the news a lot and has made my feelings very clear and all the rest of it. But, people that expose us to negativity, things in life that expose us to negativity, we are hardwired to be negative, because that way it gives us an advantage. If we assume the worst, if we are designed to complain, then we may get more help. If we bully others, it establishes more of a pecking order that is easy to deal with. If we blame others or lie, then it potentially puts the negatives imposed on us by the rest of the world onto someone else, so that we have an easier life. It's a survival mechanism. But at the same time, we can't change people, but we can change our own path. And so, it's best to avoid the negativity, to skirt around it, to keep ourselves on the solid ground whilst everyone else fights in the muck of the mire, with all of our naturally kind of driven desires to push other people around and impress how bad the world is on them. So for one reason or another, it's that whole, if someone's cheating on you, ditch that person. If a friend is treating you badly, ditch that person. If there are agreements and things that are running out of control, then simply put, there are 7 billion other people on the planet. Go find a new friend, go find a new place, go find a new situation to be in that is less negative for you. The next one is try and give more than you take. And this is a tough one, because especially when it comes to the modern world and the modern economy, there's so much about take. And there are various ways that you can give back. And this kind of leads into our next point as well, which we'll get onto in a minute. But life isn't about just taking things for yourself to build yourself up. Do yourself a favor and give back. Why? Because it builds better relationships. It builds better surroundings. It develops more and more of those things around you. The help. instead of focusing on what you want from the world, start thinking about what you have to offer. Because again, you're not going to be able to buy anything at a marketplace, for instance. You're not going to be able to buy anything if you don't have something on you first to provide. Yeah? You can want everything under the sun, but unless you have something to provide first, something to pay with, you can argue the price, sure, you can haggle, fine, but at the same time, you're not going to be able to afford anything if you don't have anything. Even modern trade, with the way that things work in the world at the moment, is built around giving first. You give money to then get what you want. You give time at your job to get the money to then go and do things with. It's all about giving first. And this is something that is often completely ignored because, let's face it, in the modern world, people want you to be take, take, take. Because that way, if they go, oh, you need to be take, take, take all the time, you're going to act rashly, you're going to continually overspend, which then feeds into our economic system, developing debt to keep banks in and various monies in circulation, and so on and so forth, and all these other things. The world, we want to be take, 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 because again, survival, the more we have, the better we're going to live. But also, you need to start thinking about it from the other way round. We get given a lot already, in various ways, and to be fair, you need that nowadays to get any kind of advancement in the world for a life that you would like. And in certain instances, I don't think people, especially young people these days, are given enough. They're given a lot in certain ways, but not in others, and those other ways are hugely detrimental. Where it leaves gaps in their development. But when it comes to the overall system of things, to live better, you need to try and give more. And whenever you have the opportunity to give, sometimes that's going to be very rare, but when you do have the opportunity to give. Yeah? Don't think about what you get from it or anything like that. If you have the opportunity to say thank you, or if you have the opportunity to participate in presenting someone with something or whatever else, do as much as you can. It can be difficult. I'm one of these people who doesn't like receiving gifts. I'd much prefer to spend time with people, which also leads on to our next point in a minute. But I'd much prefer to spend time with people and stuff like that than have people give me things. Yeah? I tell Hannah not to buy me things. I try and get her family not to buy me things, but they're for Christmas and whatever else, but they're gift givers in a lot of ways. And so my complaints are usually unheard. And also, I don't want to appear ungrateful when someone does get me something. The thought is very much appreciated, but again, I'd much prefer to spend time getting to know those people than exchange gifts, because gifts are material things. Sometimes they have meaning to them, more often than not they don't, and it's somewhat negligible. I'm not going to have those things with me at the end of my life. What I am going to have is the memories of all the times that I've spent with people. And that leads us quite comfortably, or uncomfortably, onto point 4, or principle 4, which is time is more valuable than money. There's a reason why I charge for my time rather than my skills, because it's my time that I am giving someone as a coaching session. My skills you could potentially get from all manner of different places, but it's my skills, my experience being expressed through me presenting you with my time that is the important thing that people are paying for. Time is, again, one of those things that we only have about, on average, 79 to 80 years of at the moment, and whilst that number is going up thanks to advances in medicine and things like that over time, we've still got a limit. At least for the foreseeable future of our species, we have a limit. That might change in the next 10, 15, 20 years, something like that. there are only like 7 ways that our bodies take damage and deteriorate over time. If we can solve maybe 4 of those in the next couple of decades, then yeah, we could expand our lifetimes very, very long time. We could do so hugely. But until that becomes a thing, we only have a limit. And that's it. Regardless of if you think there's something after that or not, in this situation, in this state of being, that's all we have. Money is going to give you some stuff that you're probably not going to have much by now. But it's like, be more selective with what you're doing. Don't squander what little you have. Do stuff that you will enjoy. In regards to your work, try and find ways to make money from the things that you are passionate about, that you care about. I saw a report the other day suggesting that within 10 to 20 years we could have an awful lot of just straight up shops becoming automated. Yeah, all of those entry level jobs from retail just being entirely erased in like 20 years. All those young people being born into the world with no jobs that could be considered entry level compared to like when we're living now. And that's going to have a huge impact on how people want to try and live their lives. But we should be looking at that now. Find those ways to do other things. Online is amazing for doing stuff like that. Find stuff that you're good at. Find stuff that you're interested in. Find something that you want to use to make the change in the world that you want to see, and pursue it. Now, I know that that's incredibly difficult thing to do. Like, I set up my company in 2013, and even though I had all my coaching and mentoring experience and my qualifications and all those other bits and pieces before that, and then I bought it into this space, like the last 5 years, they've been tough. I've had to kind of work other jobs whilst developing this business. I've had to do all kinds of different things that have been incredibly hard. And it's that thing where I don't feel a moment has been wasted. I might not have a lot of money, but the time that I've spent doing the things that are important to me are so much more worthwhile. And now that I'm managing to achieve more and develop more and get to more places, that's what makes the difference by a long shot. Which leads us quite happily on to part 5, or the 5th principle, I suppose, which is, follow your own direction. Very much for all the reasons I just listed. You're not other people, you are you. So when other people try and put a path out in front of you, when other people try and suggest things on your behalf, when people try and put you down just to get you to conform, and I've had even other coaches try and do that to me, which boggles the mind considering what I know about coaching and how we're supposed to act and our code of ethics and all that kind of thing. And it's habit, and it's again survival. If we see this safe path that everyone else has already walked, then we want to walk it too because it's safe, because we know that we can get through it and survive. But as I said a moment ago, a lot of those various different paths are slowly being kind of brushed away or paved over, so we can't follow them anymore. There's a quote from Niccolo Machiavelli. I can't remember which piece of his work it comes from, but the quote is, "Men almost always walk paths beaten by others and act by imitation." And again, this is survival. If we imitate others, those that we see surviving that have gone before us, then we'll follow up and we'll survive too. But it's not enough to survive anymore. Survival, relatively speaking, in the modern world is easy. so many things. Food, for instance. We don't need to go out and hunt it and catch it ourselves anymore. We just go to the supermarket. It's all there for us, including stuff from other parts of the world that we've never been to. And we've got all of these things. Survival is no longer an issue, and so now the paths that were initially carved from people just surviving have been erased, or for the most part, especially in the Western world. And so then you've got this new level of survival where it's your low paid jobs and trying to just hack it through whatever it is that you're doing at the time. And yet now we're living in a time where we're seeing those get erased. So ensuring that you're aware of the fact that you need to carve your own path and do your own thing as this new way of survival as your environment is being destroyed. That's the important thing. And then the sixth principle is that you have to recognize the universe, life, kind of moves in lots of different directions at once, and that everyone has their own story. And the only thing that we can deal with is you right now. And so trying to maintain that practical point of view, what can you do right now, is incredibly important. Because then, when it comes to our last point here, seventh principle, which is that life is a mess. Life is random. We don't choose where we're born, to who we're born from. We don't necessarily choose how the world interacts with us. And yet we don't have a lot of answers for any of that. And that's one of the reasons why religions spring up. It's people clawing for answers. But instead of wishing that we could change those things, or that some invisible force would help us, we need to recognize that the only thing, as per the last principle, the only thing that we can do is be us and be there, i.e. show up and take part. If there's something that gets thrown your way, make the most of it. Show up, take part, do your thing. Take advantage of those opportunities. Sometimes it'll be hard, and again, you're not perfect. You are only human. Sometimes those opportunities will be so daunting or so challenging that you won't want to touch them. And so you'll avoid them like the plague. Forgive yourself and take advantage of those opportunities when they come up again tomorrow, or the next day, or whenever. Just make sure that when something happens, you are present, you are you, and you're taking part. Anyway, guys, those are the principles that I think cover all of that initial statement that I put forward at the beginning from the International Baccalaureate guys in regards to what a principled person is. And I'd love to hear again. It's another list video. I'm always curious about what you guys would add to this list as a principle for life in a more general sense. Yeah, I could argue the professionalism should go on here, but I feel like professionalism is also kind of the realizing that you need to avoid negativity and show up and take part, kind of mixed together. So I'm not sure what else I would add, but please, I'd love to hear your thoughts. But otherwise, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the video later. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you in the video later. Take care.